we never talk about the bottom line to our folks. They all know. We've got to cover the nut. We've got to put fuel in the tank, and then we do our thing, you know. We roll in, you know, let's say we bid a job at 300 feet in the ground or 300 feet of wall or whatever it is today, and we got 30. You know, my hand's on the superintendent's shoulders. Hey, tough day? Yeah. Anybody get hurt? No. Do it again tomorrow? You bet.
Great businesses don't spring up out of nowhere. It takes grit, perseverance, personal growth, and failure to reach the status of an iconic local business. Welcome back to Season 6 of the Building Bellingham podcast, where we're bringing you 8 more stories of local leaders and how they are building Bellingham. We're rolling. We're in the studio.
Okay, I'm nervous now.
Okay, Mike, get ready for 60 minutes. Take a little swig of some Doc Swinson's
Cheers,
whiskey
everybody.
Here. Salud. Welcome back to the studio. This is Season 6, Episode 4, 46 episodes that we've done so far since the barn over on Mission Road, and just really excited to have you here, Mike. Mike Hams, Ram Construction. You see their signs everywhere. It sounds like you pay college kids to drive around with your trucks to...
We'll give the illusion.
Give the illusion that you guys are busy, yeah.
That's my standard answer, but no, that's not true.
It's definitely not true because we see you involved in so many big projects around here, from civil to commercial to you're going to tell us more about all the things that you do. But you started back in 95, and tell me a little bit more about this origin story. Were you in construction prior to this, or was this the beginning?
No, it's kind of the culmination of a lot of years. I started when I was 12, actually, in construction, working for my uncle, you know, picking up job sites and then learning to drive a backhoe and those kind of things. So it's just been, over the years, pursuing different construction, just different aspects of construction. And then I kept getting laid off, you know, and it was hard, and I wanted to get married and start a family, and it's hard to do that. So I was volunteering as a firefighter at the time. This goes way back. And I thought, you know, fire department looks pretty cool. I love what I'm doing here in the volunteer department, and the schedule affords me the time to do construction, which was my real passion. So became a full-time firefighter in 1993, and then ran the company on my days off. And then finally in 2000, they started competing with one another. I was in paramedic school here in Bellingham, and I just ordered a new Hitachi excavator out of Japan. I'm supposed to be learning about pharmacology and these other things that the medics here in town do, and there was just this tension between the two. And I always served the citizens well when I was at the fire department. I didn't mess around, but I sensed my mind going out, and I also wanted to really test our ability to go do bigger jobs. So I went into the chief and I said, "Hey, chief, I'm sorry, I've got to quit." You know, and he looks at me, he says, "Son, you know how many people you competed against to get this job?" It was a little different operation back in the day. Yeah, it was a lot. And I said, "Yes, sir, I understand that, but I've got this construction dream, and I don't want to, God willing, the creek don't rise, I make it to 85, or whenever I'm laying on my deathbed, I don't want to look back and wonder, what if I'd tried? I need to scratch this itch." And he looked at me and he says, "Well, I respect that." Gave me a rehire eligibility, not a guaranteed spot. It wasn't a leave of absence, but he said, "If we have a position, we'll move you to the top of the list and you can get hired back for a period of 3 years." And I thought, that's as good a golden parachute as the guy's ever going to have. So I walked away from the fire service in 2000, borrowed millions of dollars and bought some equipment and hired some people.
Oh, debt.
You know, and then
love debt.
Just been going for it ever since. It's been good. We still have employee number 1. I still have the excavator that I took delivery of the same day Samantha was born, and we're just chugging along. Yeah, so it's been a run. It's been a pull. It's not been easy.
Let's go back to that. Like, hey, we're looking to scale up to some bigger jobs. What was that like then versus what you look at now? I'm sure there's a huge spectrum of how that's changed. But what were you looking at for the first job that was big?
It's it. So it started out little. You know, we were an excavation company at the time, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and we'd look at digging out a garage, you know, or for a foundation. We didn't do any of the concrete work, and then we started digging out foundation for a house, and so that was a big job. And then we worked on a relationship with a client, and next thing you know, we had 10 houses to dig out, and then maybe he needed a little street extension, so that was a big job, you know. And then today, you know, when you move through different types of construction, so the dig outs, and you do environmental work, and then you do bridge construction. You know, I remember the first bridge we did, I lost, I don't know, a ton of money. But then we went right back and bid another one, and we did okay. So there's a learning curve to be part of that, you know. And then you roll into more commercial projects, and next thing you know, your volume's being measured in the millions, not in the hundreds of thousands, and it's measured in the tens of millions, and then, now hundreds of millions. So it's a journey. We're very careful. I'm very conservative, believe it or not, and I'm cautious about what we go after. But my team, these are men and women that are just dedicated. I mean, we have 15-year people, 20-year people, 25. We have people retiring. They're just there. And when you've got a workforce like that you know what their capabilities are, you really start to leverage risk because you know that they're going to deliver. If we, heaven forbid, anything were to ever happen, I'd hold all of them up, as I'm going underwater, just because I just love each and every one of them. They're incredible humans that give our company the ability to go out and stretch.
But you created a culture, though, and it started with you, and it started with the people that were immediately around you at that time. Yeah. How do you create a culture for people that are out there, that are starting a business and are scratching their head and saying, oh, I think this is how I should do it. Maybe I'm going to listen to a podcast. Maybe I'm going to do this. Where did you go to really determine what your company's core values were, how you were going to build that platform for people to be there for a long time, which is pretty uncommon in the trades, from what I understand? Yeah,
it can be a little rough. You've got for-profit, bottom line driven corporations that they just consume human energy. It's like plug in and look, and as soon as you're down on one knee, maybe you're having a bad day, it's a boot kick to the curb, and then it's next, and there's always a next. And I was a victim of that early in my career, and just yelled at and screamed at and said just things that I couldn't repeat on a podcast. So I never wanted to create that if I was ever fortunate enough to have a company and have folks that I worked with. So there's an element of that, I guess, trauma from my youth in construction. I get asked this question a bunch. I don't know where it comes from. I was born in Denmark. I'm Danish. Maybe it's the Danish way, who knows. But I know that I want to treat folks the way that I want to be treated. We tell all of our superintendents and mid-level managers, look, I want you to be the boss that you wish you had. And I'm counting on the fact that these folks aren't dirtbags, right? That in their heart of hearts, and I believe in all of our hearts, we want to be good people, and we want human connection. And that's quite philosophical. We're going to spend some time in a philosophical space if you're interviewing me. But you know what it means. If I say to you, be the boss you wish you had, I'm going to empower you. I'm going to give you everything you need to do that. And you know what that means. And practice kindness in every single exchange. With yourself, with your family, with your employees that are your direct reports, with the community, wherever you go. And then there's this dopamine hit rather than a cortisol hit, right? And you get out there, and then you're like, well, that felt really good. And Mike, who owns the company, is supporting me in this endeavor. Let's do that. An example, we have kids' hard hats and the kids' stickers. And the superintendents understand. If you see a parent pushing a child in a stroller, or a child that's walking that's against the construction fence, and they're curious, I want you to stop what you're doing. I don't care what the cost impact of that is. I want you to stop. And I want you to go to the truck, and you better have a supply of hard hats. You're going to get sideways with me. And you better grab one or two or three, however many kids are there, and go over there and load those kids up with the hard hats. And then tell them what you're doing. Kneel down, get to their level, guys. We've got these knuckle dragging, drool and construction workers, the typical thing. Get down and talk to the child. In that moment, the parent is ecstatic. The child's over the moon, and the superintendent and the crew are getting this dopamine hit. They're like, you know what? What we're doing here is important, but it's not that important. What's important is this exchange of kindness that we just had with this parent and this child. That's how you develop a culture. They know we're not driving to a bottom line. Certainly we have to get fuel in the tank. We have to have an oar in the water. We have to do all that stuff. But I don't need to talk about that. They realize what's important is this connection and this dopamine hit and just being kind. That's real. That's how a company says, we believe in you. You can't create a culture unless you embody and believe that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you've checked in a box, everybody's going to know that. Oh, I went to the seminar, and now I'm an expert in kindness and culture. Bullshit.
They have seminars in kindness
and
knows,
culture?
There's got to be something out there.
There's got to be a money-making opportunity.
Should we go a little espionage, go to one?
I think we should do some research.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah. I think we need more of it.
We need more of it.
Yeah.
It's similar to safety. I can go out right now and I can buy a safety program that makes me in compliance with the Department of Labor and Industries for $1,500. And I can take that 3-ring binder, I'm holding it in my hand right now, and I can put it on a shelf. I'm in compliance. But that doesn't mean that my company's operating in a safe way. You know, we have a safety director that has no budget. At any given time, he can buy whatever he wants, as much as he wants. He can spend any amount of money. He's fully empowered. Doesn't have to call me. Doesn't have to call anybody else. He reports directly to me, by the way. That's a safety culture where everybody understands it. You know what I mean? So, and as a result, we were the 3rd company in the state of Washington, 1st construction company, but 3rd company in the entire state of Washington, McDonald's, Boeing, Western Washington University, your operation here, whatever, to receive a certification from the Department of Labor and Industries called START. It's a 5-year investment by our safety director to take the company through this exhaustive, very invasive investigation and discovery by Labor and Industries. But our people believe it. I believe it. You know, when you work on a medic unit, you see the ugly side of industrial accidents. Then you come to a place where you're working in what could be dangerous. Let's keep it not dangerous, because you've seen that, and you don't want that for your people. So I'm probably talking way too much. Let me take another sip of this gorgeous thing you're sharing with me.
The whole point of this is for you to tell your story.
Yeah.
So talk away. We're all fascinated by it because it's very much how we operate as well.
Yeah, that's really good.
See?
Dang.
Expletive right there. It's really good.
Yeah.
Beep.
Was there a beep? I didn't hear the beep.
Tell me about the other side when you have these like gut decisions where the most important thing to you is safety and kindness and taking care of your people and empowering them. But then there's these moments where you're like, as the leader, you're like, this is tough. Like, I'm sure you've had moments throughout the growth of your business that were not good moments. You've had it's obviously more good moments than bad moments because you're here. But tell me a little bit about those decision-making processes when you're like, it's really tough for you as the owner, but it's also what's right for everybody else that makes that company and that culture turn.
It's scary. You know, there's inside, I mean, forget about it. You look at me and like, oh, you know, Mike's got it going on or whatever. He's confident. I'm scared shitless inside, you know, still every day. It's a challenge, and in a sense, we've turned the corner and we're moving along. What keeps me up at night is the well-being. It's less about making payroll, but it's more about the well-being of the people. Earlier in my career, I mortgaged my house twice to make payroll. So, you know, that's not lost on me. And I take that the folks' well-being beyond payroll to, you know, I take that to bed every night. And I had a heart attack at 43. I don't mind sharing that with you. You know, you carry stress and those kind of things. Certainly there was some heredity there, I'm sure. But, yeah, we care a lot. And we're trying not to, or we're definitely not, I would say we're not, certainly not the model of for-profit at all costs, human consumption machine. That's not who we are. And we wouldn't see the career folks that we have if we were that way. Yeah, but it's intimidating. Business is tough. I was at a function the other night, and I said to a group of folks, I said, it's tough being in business. Your business, my business, any business. You know, I don't wish any ill will on any of my competition, even ones that have been very aggressive against us, because it's hard, right? And they're employing people, families that are just trying to make ends meet. You know, they want to put cereal on the table. They want to have an opportunity to live their dreams and all those things. And so, you know, we don't wish any ill will on anyone. And I just recognize it's tough. It's really tough to be in business. So I want to see everybody succeed. I'd love to see a little more philanthropy from our local business community. There's some that do a great job, and there's others that, you know, they likely have more money than even their grandkids could spend if they stopped today. You start to ask yourself, when is enough enough? I start to get into, you know, touchy waters here, but I just think there's
we
more
could go on and on about that
Yeah.
because I believe that every business should have a social good mechanism.
Yeah.
Even if it's, you know, giving to a specific organization at the end of the year, or it's with every X widget that they do.
Yeah.
I think it's hands down, it should be a self-tax on every business.
I absolutely agree. The community affords us the opportunity to create a business. For me, that's a dream come true, to be able to have created what we have today, and surrounded by and working with these amazing humans. That's a gift. I just love to see more giving. You know, perhaps we've touched on the edge of reckless. I'm going to dial it back a little bit, but it's just good. And getting back to culture, when our organization is out doing things and all of our employees are empowered, employees comes, hey, the PTA is going to do this project. Do you mind if we have a dump truck and an excavator? And I said, yeah, absolutely. What kind of materials you need? Oh, we need, 6 loads of this. All right, well, we'll donate that. So now the employee's empowered and feels good. And then that drives that culture. But that's part of our corporate philanthropy. So it's such a great place that we live, and there's such great humans taking care of other humans. And if you've got a vehicle, in my case, a construction company or whatever, a real estate company or whatever it is, go out. It doesn't have to necessarily be measured by money. It's not it's not about the check. Could you do a project at cost for a nonprofit rather than, I put it in air quotes, the philanthropic discount? I see that all the time. Trump up your price. You give, 80% of the fluff back. And the philanthropic discount, you're now making 20% more than you normally made, and everybody feels good. It's like, no,
that's not
I'm talking about truly leaving as much money in the hands of the nonprofit to do their mission, to live their values as possible. Pay for the 2x4s, pay for the sheetrock, pay for maybe the labor, maybe not all the labor, whatever, and then let the nonprofit live, and do their thing, because they're doing great work. So live with love in your heart, man. Live with kindness. Everybody's going to watch this and go, that guy's a whack job.
No. Well, they say that about me every episode, so we're in the same boat. We're drinking whiskey together.
Cheers.
2 whack jobs drinking whiskey together. I like this.
Oh my God, this thing's going to go freaking viral.
Good thing we're not. Yeah, we're going to have 150 million viewers or anything like that. But
just remember us little people when you guys hit the superstar.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When we get our $150 million Spotify deal.
There you go.
Sure. Yeah. You had a double delivery date. You brought it up earlier. You had the delivery of your first piece of equipment and the delivery of your daughter.
Yeah.
So you're starting a company, continuing your family, you're growing your family.
Right.
That's super close to my heart right now because I have a 2-year-old.
Oh yeah.
And she didn't come pre-business. She came like business is full force and having success and lots of challenges at the same time. It's just the reality of it.
Right.
So I really want to dive into this. Tell me about this day that these two worlds, because it's really hard to balance the two worlds. Any good parent's going to do whatever they can to do the business thing because they know that it's going to provide, but then will set aside it all for their family. Tell me about this splitting of your brain at this moment.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And certainly, I would say but Wendy and I made some sacrifices so our folks today don't have to do that. And that's driven through our culture. But I worked a lot. For 7 years, I worked 7 days a week between the fire service and the construction world. I remember Wendy was pregnant with our son, our second child. My daughter was asleep behind me on my Carhartt jacket in the excavator. It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. Wendy's like 9 months pregnant. She's out with a grade stick and the laser. She's shooting grade as I'm digging, trying to finish this hole cut. I didn't want my construction clients to know that I was a firefighter. And so if I was supposed to start that job on Monday, I had to get it done on Sunday because my schedule had me at the firehouse on Monday. I don't want our employees to do that, to make that sacrifice. But I had the support of a spouse saying, hey, we're going to do this. She wasn't happy about it all the time. Today, with our employees, if you want to coach your child's team. I use children a lot in this analogy, but we support our people even that don't have kids or the kids are out of the house. If you want to coach your child's sports team and you need to be off at 3 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday for practice because the kids are getting out of school, let's say we're doing a road project right down the middle of Holly Street and we're operating at, $15,000 an hour, $10,000, whatever the number is. If you want off to coach that team, let the superintendent know, be respectful, and you're off. And the superintendent can figure out how to cover you. That's a company's commitment to you and family. Because 29 years ago, or whatever it is, my wife was out shooting grade at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, 9 months pregnant. We did that, and we don't want that for anybody else. I told my daughter, I said, honey, if you go play soccer, and I was working 7 days a week at this time, and I'm not bullshitting you. It was 7 days a week for 7 years. Okay, we're not going to do construction on Thanksgiving. Well, then the firehouse my schedule, the way those shift work falls, it would fall on Thanksgiving. And so you're just working. But I told her, I said, hey, when she turned 5 or 6, whatever the age is for little peewee soccer, I said, if you play soccer, I won't miss a game. And she turned out, and I remember we were doing the Best Buy up here in Bellingham, and it was noon. I looked at my buddy Ray was with me, and said, buddy, I got to go to the soccer game. It's our first game. And I didn't miss a game. So I made that shift. But it does tug at your heart, Dad, you know?
Yep.
And you've got to strike this balance, but I would always prioritize family if at all costs. And then make sure that you extend that opportunity to everybody. That's not just an owner's privilege. You're either going to do it, and you're going to do it for everybody, you're going to figure it out, or you're not going to do it, right? And then, because your employees can make a choice every day. They can go to work somewhere else. Why do they want to stay here?
On that note, let's talk about trust. When you first started, how did you place trust in others? Like after you had the 7 days a week for 7 years,
Yeah.
and you could trust that you and your wife were going to do that work. And then as you started scaling, because you started getting busier and busier and decided to take on more projects, you have to scale, right? How did you decide that you were going to just trust someone to do it and just let that part go? Was that easy for you, or was it like oh man, let's see how this goes?
That's a tough one. We're in a high-risk business. I've had, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people come through our employment to capture what we have today. When you're in a high-risk business, we there's fiber lines that run through Bellingham that if you break them, I'm told, it's $1 million a minute. They connect Vancouver, BC to San Diego, and that's not just for your average knuckle dragger to be hopping up in a machine and digging. I can teach a monkey to run a machine and dig dirt, but you've got to have a really sharp human that pays attention to things. Trust is tough, and it comes with time. And I've been burned a lot. I don't carry bitterness for that. That's a lesson. And as you interact with more and more humans, you start to be able to see kind of what's BS and what's not. And then back to our culture. Our best recruiting tool are the people that work for us. Because they love that they're celebrated. They love the family feeling within the organization that I believe is scalable. I've been told before it's not, but I think that's bullshit.
It's funny. I've been told that too. Yeah. I mean, we try to draw a line in the sand of like making sure everyone has their own lives and doesn't feel like they have to be involved all the time with the company. But same thing, like you're investing too much in this, or this feeling this is not the route to go, and you're right. Great, thanks.
No, I've been called Pollyanna a bunch. Like, oh, that your culture, your thing it's cute, Mike. Good for you, but it's not scalable. Yeah. If you want to scale, this is a quote. If you want to scale, you have to drive people. And I said, that's a bunch of shit. This is a really good friend of mine that said this to me, and a guy that's provided mentorship, early in our career and over the years. And I said, that's not true. I said, look at Costco. Multinational, umpteen, 100 billion, whatever it is. Any Costco I've ever gone into, the experience is the same. Here's a staffer and they're pricing something or doing whatever. Excuse me, can you tell me where the batteries are? Oh, sets the tool down. Let me show you, and they walk you to the thing. I don't care what Costco you're in. They're happy, they've got benefits, they're well paid, and they're cared for, right? Whatever they're doing, whatever the secret sauce is there, certainly a lot larger than us, but that's scalable. Compare and contrast to, another big retailer. That maybe there's, no staff and they're overworked, the ones that are there, and the pay isn't, the same and all the rest of it. So I say bullshit to not being able to scale. I say bullshit to you've got to drive your people. I don't drive anybody. We never talk about production. We never talk about the bottom line to our folks. They all know. We've got to cover the nut. We've got to put fuel in the tank, and then we do our thing. We roll in. Let's say we bid a job at 300 feet in the ground or 300 feet of wall or whatever it is today, and we got 30. My hand's on the superintendent's shoulders. Hey, tough day? Yeah. Anybody get hurt? No. Do it again tomorrow? You bet. There's no hanging your head low. The people that we've accumulated, that we've gathered, that we've brought together, whatever the word is, they're driven. They're driven because there's pride in what they're doing, and they know that they're supported. I'll provide buoyancy. I'm going to hold you up. Yeah. So it's a magic place to exist. I don't have near the money that people that are driving have, but that's not my unit of measure. So.
Yeah, but when you think about it, if you can be on your deathbed at the end of life and look back and go, I made an impact the way I wanted to. I supported the people I wanted to. I have great connections with people in my life. I don't have $100 billion, but what would I do with that anyways? Like, what do you really need to have a good life? You know, I think that's a very subjective perspective on it, right?
Yeah, I don't begrudge anybody that has $100 billion or whatever. I'm good. We're all different, right? And our pursuits are different. And there's some people that are amazing in business. They're accumulating tremendous amounts of wealth, and I'm not going to vilify those folks. That's great, because as I said earlier, business is tough. But what are you doing with that? You know, Paul Allen died and had $25 billion in his checking account. I'm like, hey, Paul. Dude, I could do a lot with that. You know?
Hey, man.
So, to each his own. Get out there, work hard, but just be a good human. You know, and then look at the families. I've got this friend. His name's Raj Sisodia. I met him, interesting, in the jungle in Panama at this conference I was at. And he co-wrote the book Conscious Capitalism with the founder of Whole Foods, Michael. I can't think of his last name.
I listened to him on How I Built This, the founder of Whole Foods.
Okay.
That's another good podcast. It's a meta version of what we're doing here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Very cool.
Interviews all these people, including that guy. Yeah.
So the connection there will be one of my parting gifts when I walk out of the studio here. You can give me the links and everything. Anyway, so this friend Raj, he co-wrote Conscious Capitalism, and then he went and he wrote his own book, and it's called The Healing Organization. And he does this 18-minute TED Talk that summarizes the book. Super powerful. He never vilifies corporations. I think corporations are vilified all the time, you know. And he said, no, capitalism and corporations are great. It's what makes the country great. But he said, people are hurting that are within our organizations and within our ranks. And he said, we need to pay attention to that. And the book goes through a series of examples of all of these companies that he's interviewed. And he said, yet we can be a place of healing for humans. Tells one story of a CEO had no idea that this woman that was working for him was living in a car with her children. She'd show up for work, she'd do her thing, and he had no idea. And the guy was devastated. So and he took some corrective action, but it's like, you know, let's look at that. Let's take care of folks. And we have the ability to take care of folks. And a lot of times it just doesn't take a lot, you know? So
it's like it's thin margin, so it could be a little thing that makes a big difference.
Right. It doesn't have to be money all the time. But often that's you know, an accelerator or a vehicle to help, but it's just really a mindset and an attitude. Do you care about people? Do you care about human beings? I could go on and on, but
do you want another splash?
Well, perhaps if I just clean this glass out.
Take a quick break here for a moment.
Is this a break in a podcast right now?
Yeah, she's gonna cut. She's gonna edit and do all the things, and so
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
keep it rolling. We're pouring whiskey
this
here
is
in Bellingham,
podcast.
Washington.
Yeah,
not any whiskey. Doc Swinson's whiskey.
Look at him.
That was a commercial break.
Building Bellingham is a community production of the Bellingham Real Estate Company. We are an independent real estate firm located on Meridian Street. From our data-centric approach to a heavy investment in media and collaboration, we do real estate differently in Whatcom County. Check out Bellingham Real Estate Co reviews on Google, Zillow, and ratemyagent.com, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Tell me about where, like, you have all these people in your world. You have this big vision for what you're doing as far as kindness goes, and taking care of people and running a great local business. How do you let a little steam out? How do you decompress? What do you do? A lot of people haven't figured that out. They haven't figured, maybe they've been working for 7 days a week for 7 years, and it's time to start figuring out, redoing that schedule so that you are still making a big impact, but also able to let out a little bit of steam at a time so you don't, implode.
Great question. I don't golf, and I'll go on a fishing trip once a year. We take our 5-year anniversary employees to a fishing trip up in Alaska, so I get to go on that. I'm kind of leading that up with the folks, but I'm still kind of working, to a degree. I don't have a lot of creative outlet in that space. I get my greatest charge, my greatest relief, or recharge when I am helping somebody else. I hesitate to almost say that, but that's the truth. If I can buy somebody a meal that's hungry, or even somebody that's not hungry, buy coffee for the person behind me in line and see that smile on that person's face, that's better than 18 holes of golf for me any day of the week. And I do like to get out of town. I'm going to head to Denmark next week for 5 days. I was born there.
The hometown?
Yeah, the hometown.
Where is the hometown?
Copenhagen, Denmark. Born there. And I have a brother there and some family there. So I'm flying solo. When I get there, I do recharge. So I'll take 2-3 days in the city. I'm not going to talk to anybody. But that's how I recharge. So I step away The team has given me the confidence over and over again. They're like, Mike, get out of here. We got this, We don't need you.
You're getting in the way.
I do get in the way. I'm well aware of that and reminded often, But so that's how I recharge. A lot of the stuff that RAM does is visible to the community, and RAM gets accolades for that, and I try to pass that on to the folks. There's at least that much and more that nobody knows about except a bunch of individuals out there, and those are amazing things, right? We don't talk about that, we don't advertise, and my hope is someday, as I said, God willing, the creek don't rise. It's a long time from now, but you never know. But when I take my last breath, I hope a couple things. I hope somebody will come to my funeral, and in that moment, if somebody were to stand up and tell my kids, hey, you don't know me, but your dad did this for me, then I'd color my life complete.
Yeah.
Because I want to send that message to them.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Sorry, that's the whiskey talking right there.
No,
Get a little uncomfortable
that's...
here, but that's the truth. And if that can happen, obviously I won't be around, but that's my goal. That's what that's how I try and live my life.
So still sticking on family, but also, wrapping it back into the company. Your daughter, Sam, she works at RAM.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, I've heard everything on the spectrum of, kids joining the company and different experiences. People saying, "Oh, this is where you're going to start," or the kids take over the business. And tell me a little bit more about your philosophy with your daughter and becoming a part of the company, and what does that look like for you?
I'm making it up as I go a little bit. Mm-hmm. Daughter and son and son-in-law, the three of them are kind of on the path to kicking me out. I'm happy to go on the day-to-day side. I think I'll stick around, and you don't replace 45 years of Rolodex building overnight for the kids. It's interesting. I said, you've got to work somewhere else. So she went and worked for a large general contractor in Seattle out of college and gained some experience, and then we had a position open, and so she came back up. And I want them to have that experience. You got to illuminate your blind spots, and there's a lot we don't know, and I love bringing folks in from other organizations that have different experiences so we can grow and learn. The family thing is a little different. Even with my wife, it gets hard at times because, sometimes you gotta be a business person. My hope is it doesn't happen often that the family responds in that way. When dads need to be a leader, then I get some of the family drama and pushback. That's bullshit. And I'm like, there's not anybody in this office that would say that right now, and we're all taking notes and knuckling down. So that part's been a little tough, but we work through it. Bring consultants in and people that are smart, way smarter than me. That's the key to leadership. And I could say that every staffer in the office is smarter than I am. I just have the ability to glue them together and hopefully get everybody moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress with the kids. I'm confident that they'll do well. Sam brought me my first grandson, about 10 months ago.
Yeah.
She's trying to figure out the balance, this work-life balance thing right now, and I want to support her and her husband in whatever they decide to do. There's no expectations on my side. I'm working today, and I'll keep working for the foreseeable future. But
7 days a week, right? Still?
No, not that. That stopped when I went to that first soccer game.
Yeah.
And it was good. What a blessing to have a child that wanted to do that. And she probably didn't realize what she was causing me to do in that moment, but it was good. So, yeah, I hope that transition is successful. I think it's going to happen over a lot of years. My hope is to step back in time from the day-to-day, let the young folks and the employees kind of step up and show me that they can run this thing, and then I'll just continue to hopefully make it rain. If I'm lucky enough to maintain those relationships of trust and in the community.
Hold on to that Rolodex, right?
Hold on to it. I say Rolodex, and there's a lot of young people that have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, we know what it is. And
yeah. It's in a museum.
It's in a museum. It's a relic. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. What are some of your favorite projects in the Bellingham area or out of area that you guys have done that have just stuck with you?
Oh, wow. One that stands out, so we rebuilt the Whatcom Waterway, Holly Street Bridge down there by the Waterfront Tavern.
Oh, I know the waterfront, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So from that bridge up to the fish hatchery, we rebuilt that waterway. It was all at night. There was a landfill unit underneath that concrete foundation that sits there that was leaching some bad stuff into the waterway. So we had to kind of provide an environmental cap. And we'd go in and we do our work at night, and the tide would go down. We would chase the tide down, taking the contaminated material out, and then we'd import the capping material. And then as the tide was coming up, it would chase us back up out of the water. So we had to figure out how much we could bite off each night. Great crew that put that together. But I think the magic in that project was being there the next night, and salmon are spawning, and so you see a large salmon rubbing its belly on the gravel that you just put in the waterway. And I thought, wow, that's really cool, because you can do apartment buildings and strip malls and those kind of things.
Those are so exhilarating, aren't they?
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
It's just like, wow, these are amazing. No,
big boxes, yeah.
But when nature is navigating the work that you just created the night before, the day before, that's really cool. We've done a lot of environmental projects like that, but that one sticks out in my mind because I distinctly remember seeing some large fish just right in the new part of the shoreline that we created. We were acting as a subcontractor. There was a rather contentious general contractor, but our relationship with the city, with fisheries, and with the consultant for the city was amazing. Friendships were formed in that space, so that was a really cool project.
How do you navigate that, though? I mean, it's pretty easy to blueprint a strip mall, a retail center, whatever, commercial multifamily. It's pretty plug and play once you get the basics of it. But something like that where you're navigating nature, not just the normal elements, right?
Right.
You've built all this experience, but how do you go, never seen this before,
right?
And go, okay, but we can figure it out. What's that process like?
It's, you get back to the team. There's a lot of creativity in the minds of the folks that are working with us. You work with the engineer, and the engineer understands the nuance of the fact that this is a riverbed, and you're going to get a pretty close idea in the plans, but you're going to have trust between you and the owner, and creativity and the ability to pivot in the moment. So I think the trust was the biggest thing. We understood the intent. We understood the design specifications. We applied all of those, but we had to move left when we wanted to move right, and those kind of things. That job was, we got creative because we had to do the far shore, which is adjacent to the Maritime Heritage Park, and we needed to get a bunch of material against that shoreline. So we got I don't know how many steel sheets, because you can't drive a dump truck through the park, you'll sink out of sight. So we built a steel sheet road back to a portion of the creek that bends there, and then we started dumping our material into the river. Built a pad, and then the dump trucks turned, and then they continued to dump, and we had an excavator pulling that. So we built this huge surplus of material along the shoreline that actually dump trucks drove on. And when the tide was at the right level, it was just inches below, the road was inches below the water, and it looked like the dump trucks were driving on the creek, which was it was surreal, in the early morning light, and there's a dump truck, and was that floating on the creek? What's going on? But then that material that we built the road on, we had to build it to get so far, and then we used that. We pulled that out, and the excavator pulled the material up against the bank, and it worked its way back out. So we surcharged the river with the material, and then we backed our way back out. So that's just fun. You get creative. You get outside the box.
It's almost like as a kid, you're in the sandbox, right?
Yeah.
And it just... That's the adult sandbox.
The only thing that's different is the sandbox is bigger.
Just a little bit.
A little bit bigger.
More tools, more people.
Yeah, more risk.
Yeah.
When you're in the sandbox with your Tonka truck, there's not a lot of risk there.
Hey everyone, it's Taylor. This year I'm joining the show as co-producer, but for the last 3 years I've directed our team's other community platform, Live Bellingham Now, where we highlight new local businesses, try out iconic favorites, and keep you in the know about all the things happening in the city of subdued excitement. Check us out on Instagram or Facebook, and be sure to subscribe to the monthly newsletter.
So, you being at this point in your career, just imagine you're speaking to a younger entrepreneur that's out there. What would you pass along to that person if that person could avoid a mistake? Or, I mean, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but what would you pass along to that person as far as, hey, just like confidence, kindness? What kind of message would you pass along to that person?
Kindness matters. Focus on your people. It's all about the people. I talked to both my kids and my son-in-law. They went through the business track, and I said, did you get any psychology, anthropology, sociology as part of your business track? And they said no. And I would say 90% of business, whatever business you're running, is the people. It is. And if you can coalesce and take care of folks. I don't care if you're building widgets or construction buildings or whatever, you're going to do fine. But you got to get the right people in there. And then the other thing for young folks, for me, I needed a relationship with an insurance and bonding guy, a bank person, an accountant, and an attorney. And those 4 people, I want to know that I would enjoy having a beer with you.
Mm-hmm.
If we can have a beer together and chew the fat, then you're on my team. But you have to have a close personal relationship with those 4 individuals, in my world, that's trusted.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not about like box seats at a Seahawks game, although that would be nice. But it is about like taking the time to know that like who they are as a human,
Right.
and know that they just happen to be really good at whatever specific field they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All 4 of those folks in my world, we've been consistent. We're very, very loyal. We still buy materials from the same supplier, and everybody knows we sink or swim together. But those 4 disciplines, those folks have become close friends over the years, some older than me, some younger than me. And it's just been good. It's been really good, and I can pick up the phone to any one of them and, hey, I'm down on one knee, I'm stumbling here. What do you think? You know what, Mike, I've seen that 7,800 times. Here's a great thought for you to consider. Awesome.
Yeah. Just open
Tremendous
the door.
resource.
Yeah.
Those 4.
What's one of your favorite things about Bellingham and Whatcom County? It's such a unique place. What magnetizes you here to stay here?
That's a great question. Came up to go to Western. I don't mind sharing with you. I'm a dropout.
Oh, hey, cheers to that. Me too. Hey, we have a lot in common. Great.
I did a tour through academic probation. Let me have a sip of this. So, what do I like about this area? It's amazing. You can go through all the normal stuff, outdoors and yada, yada, yada. But I find the people fascinating. I loved being a volunteer firefighter. I was out in Sudden Valley and Geneva area back in the 80s and early 90s, or through the 90s, I guess. Created some great friendships. Graduated from Federal Way High School, kind of the asphalt jungle, and you come up here, and it's just so beautiful. And then when you get plugged into the community, did kind of a tour through Rotary, and I've sat on some nonprofit boards, and you get to know folks. It's like, wow, there's amazing people. And just an eclectic intersection of randomness in the humans.
The funk of
the
Bellingham.
funk, right, yeah. And the businesses, there's uber wealthy that are just quiet, and then there's folks that need a tremendous social safety net, and everything in between. Every one of them has a story. Every one of them, when you drill in, is just so basically human. It's just it's a fascinating place, and I suspect that maybe that's the way it is in all communities. But I came up here, I decided to put some roots down and invest heavily in people in this place, and it still allows me to continue to run the business that I'm running and support all the families that we're supporting. And so I don't play any instruments. I'm all about music. I can hear every note. It just vibrates, right? Some of the best experiences I've ever had have been super organic. I was back in Copenhagen. I took a couple of friends with me one time. We're sitting in my cousin's apartment. It's 5th floor, old brick building, maybe mid-1800s. I'm setting the stage, right?
Yeah.
Looking back over the city, and we're sitting there. We're about 14 bottles of really great Spanish wine into the evening.
Yeah.
Don't judge.
Yeah.
And,
I cannot judge.
And there's a guitar leaning against the wall, right? And so I've got this friend with me. I've known the guy for 20 years. No idea he had any inclination toward music. And he says to my cousin Jesper, "Hey, Jesper, do you mind if I check out your guitar?" "No, man. Help yourself." So he sits down and he kind of does this a little bit. He reaches up. He's doing the tune program. And then he starts playing. And he's not just chord strumming. He's playing this guitar. And granted, I had a little bit of wine, but I'm like, holy smokes. Dude, what's happening to me right now? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And then he starts singing. 20 years. No idea. The whole experience, as organic as could be, happened because there was a guitar leaning against the wall. He rolled into some Metallica thing.
Yeah.
Acoustic Metallica
Nice.
riff. And I'm just like, dude, who are you?
Yeah.
Right?
You'd think if like with that much talent, at some point something would have happened.
Somewhere, somehow. No idea. So the bar that you're referring to, I'll have you all there. Not necessarily your viewership or your audio ship, but
everybody listening.
Yeah, everybody's
just for the record. Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to populate it with instruments that I can't play. But you never know. If I'm making you a martini or something, you're like, whoa, is that a little Yamaha piano over there? Yeah. You mind if I tickle the ivories? Not at all. Let me just finish making your drink here.
Yeah.
You know, there's such magic in that space for me, music.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really
That's your outlet right there. That's the little
that is my
little
outlet.
steam.
Yeah, thanks for helping me get back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you for making this a special episode and just having a good time and just coming in and sharing your story. And I love your philosophy on life and family and business. And I just appreciate your time. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much. It's
back to time, right?
Yeah. It's I didn't know what to expect here, so I appreciate it. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I'm happy to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
On whatever you want to talk about.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.
Building Bellingham is a community podcast produced by the Bellingham Real Estate Company. Our producers and audio editors are Taylor Beal and Tiffany Holden. Social media and video production are by Cooper Hansley and Taylor Beal.